I've always said there's a science to umpiring and an art. The science is the nuts and bolts. Like I said, a strike is any part of the ball in any part of the strike zone. That's the science of it, or whatever. The art is us making determinations, what's fair, common sense. For example, by rule, a coach is supposed to be in the coaching box. We rarely make them be in the coaching box unless the other team says, hey, we think he's stealing signs. Okay, well, then both teams will stay in the coaching box for the rest of this game. That's a rule that, frankly, we don't enforce unless we have to. Any RoboCop, any robo type thing doesn't have the luxury of making that determination of how it affects the game or the common sense judgment of an experienced umpire. It just says yes or no, strike or ball, and that's all it knows. Again, if everyone's okay with that, and if you're used to having certain pitches that are technically strikes and aren't, go at it. I mean, that's fine. But it's really tough for me when you have a game played by human beings that they want it officiated perfectly, even though it's never played perfectly.
Welcome to the RockstarsRocking podcast, powered by Voluntary Disruption, a show dedicated to people who are crushing their business and life goals. These are bite-sized conversations with leading rock stars in their respective industry who are pumped to share their story to help drive you to the next level. So, are you ready to rock? Speaking of rock stars, here's your host, Eric Silverman.
Hey, rock stars, welcome back to another episode of RockstarsRocking. Boy, do I have another rock star, the rock star of all rock stars, in my opinion, at least when it comes to professional sports. Baseball, my sport, everybody knows that if you know me. And because of my dad, my ultimate respect for umpires. We have today Dale Scott, 32-year professional Major League Baseball umpire from 1985 to 2017, if I got that correct. And I'm so fired up and excited and honored that you were able to join the show. Welcome, Dale. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Eric. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite, and I look forward to this.
Absolutely. I appreciate you so much. So a little backstory just to show what type of class act Dale is. So if anybody's never heard of this app, go download it and order it for family and friends. There's an app out there called Cameo where celebrities in all walks of life all over the world who have a following, people that have a name, can basically, folks like myself, a regular ordinary person, can go on this app and request that somebody send a short clip or a short video message. Could be a birthday message, could be a get well soon message, something like that. My dad, he's good now, I'll preface it, but he's 78 years old. He was diagnosed with COVID earlier this year, 2021, and he was put in the hospital for a week, not on an oxygen or not on a ventilator, but he did need oxygen. And my dad's been umpiring baseball for almost 30 years himself. And I know that my dad, who's taught me well, he pays more attention to umpires than he does the players. And my dad's a big Washington Nationals fan, so we got a big rivalry going in the DC-Baltimore Beltway. Anyway, I don't know Dale. I sent on Cameo. He was on there, and I sent him a message about my pop. And within a day or two, Dale sent a personal video back to my dad, wishing him well. And you could tell it was heartfelt, and I appreciated it. My dad appreciated it. And then I reached out on Twitter and said, Dale, would you come on the show? And he was so generous to do so. So that's kind of how this started. And again, I can't thank you enough for that, Dale.
Well, I appreciate it. Cameo is a lot of fun. I get those every once in a while. I don't really consider myself a celebrity, but it's a lot of fun. And I was glad to do that for your dad. I'm glad he's doing well.
Absolutely. So Dale, I got a bunch of questions for you today. If you don't mind, I'm just going to jump right in. I'm probably going to be all over the place. There's no set order, so I might jump from one baseball something to another. But one of the things that's top of my mind that is all over the news this year of late is Major League Baseball cracking down or saying they're going to crack down on what a lot of articles say, the sticky stuff, meaning substance on the baseball that pitchers may or may not be using. And they also have made it clear that I've read that they're going to rely on Major League Baseball umpires to enforce it. That sounds like a nightmare to me. What's your opinion on that, my friend?
Well, my opinion is I'm glad I'm retired because it does sound like a nightmare to me also, as far as an umpire and policing this. Foreign substances on that pitchers have used in the past, or defacing baseball, scuffing them or whatever, was to to deceive the hitters for baseballs to do some weird things as it approaches the plate. This, from what I understand, is a lot more to do with not necessarily to make the ball totally do goofy things, but just to give the pitcher an advantage of their spin rate and being able to with the sticky stuff, have a much higher velocity spin rate and that kind of stuff, which is is cheating basically, according to the rules. And so it's a little bit of a nightmare that's been going on for MLB. Some of their top pitchers in the league have been accused of this. I don't. I'm not sure if they've denied it or not, but it's going on. And so they wanted to, put a stop to it. We'll see how it goes. I like I said, as an umpire, it's a bit of a nightmare. It used to be that if a opposing team thought a pitcher had a substance on him or was defacing the ball in some way or whatever, they would say something to you. You would also be all four of you on the field. Every time you get a chance to check the ball, you check it just to see if there's anything that shouldn't be there. We had the discretion to go out and check the pitcher. We could do it on our own. If we, found some baseballs that we thought were defaced, we could also, at the request of the opposing manager, if we thought there was some merit to that. But now it's the umpires are on their own. I mean, certainly a manager may request something, but the umpires are now told that they can at any time check a pitcher for substance on his glove or on his body or whatever. It's just another layer of things that umpires need to do and need to police. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. Both the policing of this, and also, I just read a thing online that since they announced this, and it hasn't gone into effect basically until just a few days from now, but since they announced this, hitters' averages have already gone up a little bit, league-wise.
Really? I didn't see that.
Which the theory is, it's not, there's no proof, but the theory is that once it was announced, some of these pitchers are pitching without the substance if they were using it, just to get used to it, because they're going to be policed on it much more vigorously coming up. So we'll see. That's a very short window to come up with any concrete evidence that it's happening. We'll have to have a longer time to check the stats and all that stuff. But it'll be interesting how it all plays out.
Yeah, no doubt. And I had not seen that article saying that the averages have gone up, but if they continue to go up and they're policing it, that would, I guess, prove the point in some capacity. Yeah. But I agree, the timeliness has got to be a longer time frame for sure. Let me ask you a question in that same vein with respect to how baseball's different now. I mean, you were still in baseball in 2017 when some of this was around, but certainly not all of it. What's your opinion, your quick take on 7-inning doubleheaders that they started with last year due to the pandemic?
Well, I love 7-inning.
I knew you'd say that.
We don't get paid by the hour. We had that in the minor leagues, and obviously we know why some of these changes were made with COVID and those types of things, like the extra inning runner at second rule. I would have loved that.
Well, that was my next question. So talk about that too. The runner on second and the 10th.
Right. Well, all these were put in for the reason stated. But I again, reading some background, the baseball, extra inning games get to a point or can get to a point where you now have used your roster and you may have to have a position player pitching or whatever. And
it's fun for me to watch that.
Well, it's like a really good golfer having a bad shot. You go, hey, those guys do it too once in a while. But the thing is, the quality of baseball in a very hard fought, tie game, it dwindles, substantially as the innings go on. The longest game I ever worked behind the plate was 19 innings, 6.5 hours. Wow. And I would have loved to run her at second during that time.
Were you behind the plate that game?
Yeah, I was behind the plate that game. Yeah. It was the first plate, my first plate game of the season in 1992.
Wow.
In Cleveland, Boston at Cleveland. And Boston, top of the 19th, hit a 2-run home run. And I high-fived him because I was so excited. I think that's probably against protocol, but these are interesting rules. The 7 inning, purists are going to say that's just not right. I do believe there's some conflict. For example, was a Bumgarner threw a no-hitter, a 7-inning no-hitter, and it's not officially a no-hitter.
Right.
Well, if it's an official game, it seems like it should be official no-hitter. Maybe you have a different category for 7-inning no-hitters, but still, I don't think you can say it's not one. It's a win and a loss in the column. So, I'm all for it, frankly. A lot of times, and I'm not sure if, well, they probably are with these 7-inning doubleheaders, but if they're doing the split doubleheaders like a lot of clubs do because they want 2 gates, those are long days. With the 1 o'clock start, 7 o'clock start or whatever, so, yes, I'm for them. I know purists probably aren't. I could see it tweaking a little bit on the runner at second base and maybe not start that till the 11th inning or something, and have, let them play a real game, for 1 or even 2 extra innings. So that can be
Something
tweaked
like
a little
that.
bit. Yeah.
Sure.
But for the most part, I'm happy with the changes.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, what about the big one that is not there, but they're playing with it? You know where this is going. Robo umps, automatic umps, which I don't know enough to be dangerous, to be honest with you here. So you have to educate me. But from what I would assume, it would eliminate jobs in some capacity in the umpire world. But you tell me what it looks like.
Even if you have a robo ump calling pitches, you still need a plate umpire. There still needs to be a body there. That plate umpire still has to take every pitch like he's calling it. Because if the robo ump has some type of technical glitch or whatever, then that person that's the plate umpire, he's got to make the call. So now that right there that would be tough to do as a plate umpire, because you have to focus and concentrate on every pitch. Although rarely will you call the pitch, but you may have to call the pitch after you find out with that delay that there was a robo ump issue. That's not easy to do. No. I've never done it, but I'm just saying, as an umpire, that would not be easy to do. But you still need a plate umpire. You have to determine if a hit batsman or catcher interference or batter interference or foul ball if it's off the hitter or whatever. There's a lot of other stuff that takes place that a robo ump cannot call, and can't make a decision on, and of course plays at the plate and that kind of stuff. So there's that. But I've always said with the automatic strike zone, the robo ump, be careful what you wish for. Mm-hmm. The strike zone is a 3-dimensional thing, and it's from the very front edge of the plate to the very point of the back of the plate. It's obviously the height it changes with every hitter. The width is the same, but you have to remember that 17-inch plate. If any part of the ball crosses or touches that part of the plate, over the plate, it is considered on the plate. So in other words, you have a 2 1/4 inch diameter baseball that makes that 17 inches 19 inches,
right.
On one way, and actually 21 inches if you consider both sides. So
right.
not to be technical and get in the woods here, or weeds here, but there's that. Now, we've had an evaluation system that started in the early 2000s that was basically the same setup. It's been redefined, and it's a different company now, and there's other technological changes. But the point is, we had some issues with this with the system because it doesn't take. Let me give you an example. You have a hitter or a pitch that comes in at the very front edge of the plate. It's at the very lowest point on the knee as it crosses, but the ball is moving away from the hitter and down toward the dirt. So the pitch is actually caught almost on the ground, 3 or 4 inches outside. Technically, that's a strike. By rule, any pitch that enters any part of the strike zone is a strike, by rule. Now, a human umpire will rarely call that a strike because it looks absolutely awful, and it's not expected to be a strike. But a robo-ump doesn't have that luxury of making a judgment. It's either yes or no, how it's programmed. So, again, there's going to be pitches called that technically are correct, but in reality are not accepted as strikes. And that's something that, if people are dead set of, for robo umpires, and by God, we're not going to miss one pitch. There will be not one pitch missed. Well, those pitches are strikes now. And so, if you adjust your attitude and if you're okay with that and hitters are okay with that, it's going to be fine. I've always said there's a science to umpiring and an art. The science is the nuts and bolts. Like I said, a strike is any part of the ball in any part of the strike zone. That's the science of it, or whatever. The art is us making determinations, what's fair, common sense. For example, by rule, a coach is supposed to be in the coaching box. We rarely make them be in the coaching box unless the other team says, hey, we think he's stealing signs. Okay, well, then both teams will stay in the coaching box for the rest of the game. That's a rule that, frankly, we don't enforce unless we have to. Any RoboCop, any robo type thing doesn't have the luxury of making that determination of how it affects the game, or the common sense judgment of an experienced umpire. It just says yes or no, strike or ball, and that's all it knows. Again, if everyone's okay with that, and if you're used to having certain pitches that are technically strikes and aren't, go at it. I mean, that's fine. But it's really tough for me when you have a game played by human beings that they want it officiated perfectly, even though it's never played perfectly. For example, double play ball, bases loaded, 1 out, shortstop it's right to him. It's a perfect double play ball. Goes right between his legs. Do we say, well, after further review, he usually makes that play, so we're going to give him 2 outs?
It's a good point.
Of course not. He made a mistake. He made an error. It happens. He's a human. Okay.
Sure.
Now, granted, it's maddening for a fan to see an umpire maybe miss a pitch in an important situation. That same pitch, if he misses it in the second inning with nobody on and no score,
nobody cares.
Nobody even bats an eye. Right. So a lot of it's situational, and nobody that wears the blue, none of us want to miss a play or a pitch. But it does happen because we're not perfect.
Yeah.
But I'm just, do you want a video game out there, or do you want a game played by humans, officiated by humans, and let the chips fall where they may? And again, society and fans and baseball people are going to have to make that decision.
I agree. I love that example of the shortstop that you just talked about. You probably could predict. I'm more purist. I'm not that old per se, but I just grew up that way. And, the reality is, I feel like if all this stuff continues to happen, you're going to need 2 separate halls of fame too. You're going to need 2 separate scores and stats tracking, because you got people that played it the old school real way, in my opinion. And then you got people that are going to benefit or not benefit from the new way. Right. Talk to me for a second or two about the replay room. You were there, obviously, pre and post replay. What was your thought and the general thought of umpires in general when your brethren, when it officially came to fruition where, a manager could, ask for an instant replay?
Well, replay first started, it was just what we called border calls between the foul poles, ground rule doubles, home runs, spectator interference, fair foul. That, on.
I needed that for Jeffrey Mayer.
Anyway, I was there. I was at first base.
You were at that game?
Yeah.
I should know that. I'm such an asshole.
I was at first base. Yeah,
oh my God.
My first LCS. I always thought it was a little bit ridiculous that we would have a home run, non-home run. We're not sure. Not even a fair foul, although that's one of them, but just one that was it touched by a spectator? Did it hit above the line or below the line? This is, 360 feet away. We have one time to see it. That's it. Boom. You got to make a decision. You have shadows. You have people in white shirts. You have a glare from the sun. You have all types of things that can affect what you're looking at. You're the calling umpire that is going out and trying to get in as quickly as you can and then set in position on a ball that's, sailing. So it all happens very quickly. And so you're, 150 feet away or something making this call. And everybody in the ballpark knows what happened because they see the replay on the monitors in the stands or whatever. Both teams have monitors up their runways. They see what happens. Of course, everybody at home watching sees what happens. And the four guys that have to make a decision get together and go, well, what do you got? Well, I thought it was a home run. What do you see? I wasn't sure. I thought the fan might have touched it. What do you have? I couldn't see it from my angle, And so now we have to come up with something. Did not make sense to me. Okay, so I was happy, and for the most part, umpires in general were happy when that part of replay, first started. But we also knew, and we weren't stupid, that this was the opening, and it was going to advance at some point.
Yeah.
And when it did advance, we were, at least I was. Let's see how this plays out. I'm not necessarily against it, but I'm not sure how this is going to work. Let's see how it all plays out. And for the most part, now that it's been in place, now that I've been on both ends of it, both on the field and in replay, I'm happy with the replay system. I think it's a good thing. I'm still not to the point where I think robo umpires should be around. I think that is maybe a bridge too far. But I'm happy with the replay system as we have it because it does correct obvious mistakes. It does correct. Now, it's not perfect. And anybody who thought that once we have replay, there'll never be a missed call again, ever. Well, that's just not true. I just saw the other day, it was a type of replay, a play at the plate right where the camera had a perfect look at this play. But right when the play happened, the pitcher who was backing up the catcher got right in the way of the camera. So and so you have that camera was useless then. And that was the one that had the perfect shot at it. So there's always stuff that's going to happen with replay. It's never going to be perfect, but it does correct, obvious mistakes. It does, when I missed a play before replay and it was a big play, again, situational play, it's in the 9th inning or the winning run or blah, blah, blah. I had the joy of watching that replay every half hour on SportsCenter for the next 24 hours, if not longer, of me kicking this play. Not a fun thing, and it's and all the focus is on me and my mistake. With replay, that same situation, I missed the play. We go to replay, we correct it and get the play right. Sometimes it's not even mentioned in the report of the play. If it is, it's usually originally called save by replay. They call them out or whatever, But the focus is on the play. The focus is on the game because even though we may have looked bad doing it, we got the play right eventually. Right. And that's what people want. They just want the play right, and we get that, and we want the play right. Don't get me wrong. So overall, I'm okay with replay. I think it does what it needs to do. It's not perfect. There's still going to be controversies. There's still going to be situations, and plus, there's certain replays that one angle looks out, one looks safe. That's how close it is. That's how the angle looks, and you just. If you're not looking, if you're looking with your head and not your heart, you really can't tell one way or the other. And so in those situations, I think it's correct to go with the umpire that's on the field. But the other thing, one more thing about replay is we hear a lot of bitching. Oh, it takes too long. Oh my God, we're going to replay. It takes too long. which a lot of times is from the same people that wanted replay when we didn't have it, by the way. But you got to remember that before replay, we had arguments. We had delays because of arguments and this and that and this and that, and rarely did anything change. And if the umpire was wrong, it never did get corrected. At least with replay, you have that. We were doing replays much quicker than we used to because we know the system. We've got it. We've understand it. We've worked it. And, you can't have it both ways. You can't bitch about, we need to have replay. And then when we get replay, say, oh, well, this is stupid. This is taking too long. So, yeah, that's my feeling on replay.
No, I agree. Those that complain are still complaining. And, arguments still happen. I mean, my God, I'm watching the Orioles game yesterday and Hyde got thrown out in the first inning. And I was like, what? The game just started. Slow down.
I've ejected the first hitter before.
There you go. Yeah. Well, on the list of speaking of ejections, is not on my list, but assuming it's accurate, I don't know if it's accurate, but Wikipedia says you've injected 90 folks over your entire 32-year career. But I think that's one on the lower side, because anybody I've talked to in any article I've ever read about you of late says that you always had not a short fuse, that you were very much not looking to get anybody out of the game, and they really had to, I guess, piss you off if it got to that. Is that accurate?
You had your automatics. If they throw equipment or they bump you or do those are automatics. The thing is it's easy to eject people. I could eject people all the time. Hey, you eject. What's tough is keeping a guy in a game, but not taking abuse. In other words, letting them vent as long as they do it the correct way, and calming the situation. That's a challenge.
Well, let me ask you something. So did this ever enter your mind, or could it enter an umpire's mind, right? And humor me for a minute. So you got a stadium full of 40,000 fans who, I'm just going to pick on a name. I don't know if you ever threw them out, but they didn't come here, as the umpires would say, they didn't come here to see the umpire. They came here to see Bryce Harper or Manny Machado or Cal Ripken. I'm a big Cal Ripken fan. And if you throw those guys out, you're hurt. Some might say you're hurting baseball. Like, relax, they're superstars, leave them alone. I don't agree with that, by the way, because I think they should play by the same rules as the rookie who just got called up. But what's your take on that? Does that ever enter your mind, or
no? Okay. The situation happening enters my mind. The same, if Bryce Harper says the magic words, he's going to be ejected. It doesn't matter that he's a superstar. It doesn't matter that it may hurt the Nationals, whatever. That's not my job. My job is to police the game as fairly as possible within the rules. And quite frankly, those players know what they can say and what they can't say. And if you let a superstar, and frankly, if you let anybody, but if you let a superstar, blast you in such a way that is ejectionable and you don't do it, what does that other dugout and his teammates say? What yeah, right. Hey, we can just, it's a field day today with Scotty, because if you didn't eject him for that, and this and that. So, but then again, I'm not looking for ejections. I don't go out there sniffing for ejections. I try to take, and most umpires do, you try to take every individual situation for what it is at that time and deal with it accordingly. And someday, ejections it's part of the game. We don't have technical fouls or 15-yard penalties or whatever. So you're either we do have an equipment violation, so you have that if a guy chucks his bat after he strikes out, and usually when you say I got you on equipment, then they say something else and you eject them. So because they didn't like what you said about the equipment. But
no, I get it.
Yeah. So that's how you approach that, and just try to be fair with and treat everybody the same way.
So let's get into some other areas. So this is something I've always been curious about. My dad made me promise to ask you this, and he feels like he has the answer, but who knows? So, if this happened, it's happened a couple times this season or last season. Superstar younger player Ronald Acuna Jr. in the Braves. He doesn't run out to first base. He doesn't run through first base. He kind of is lazy, right? And Bryce Harper was accused of that when he was young. It's a young kid thing, right? And, manager of the team, I guess, goes back after the game and yells at him, right? Gives him a tongue lashing, says, we expect more of you. And then he benches him the next day, right? He had a bad game. He benches him. So the question, you may know where I'm going, is, does that exist in Major League Baseball umpiring where everybody's got an off day? We're only human. You said it, but you have a bad game, obviously a bad game. You know it. The fans know it. The media knows it. The players know it. It happens, right? You're not feeling well, whatever. Is there a head umpire? Is that the crew chief? Is there somebody that behind the scenes gives you a tongue lashing, gives you a review? Because you don't get benched that I see. I don't know how that works. Can you talk about the review process and evaluations and so forth?
Yeah, we're evaluated every pitch that we call, ball or strike, every play that we call on the bases and the plate, and even no calls. Let's say there was a rundown and maybe there should have been obstruction called. You didn't call it.
Okay.
That type of thing. So we're evaluated on everything we do out there, and just like a player or any person, frankly, some days can be not as good. I've walked out there before, and the baseball looked like a beach ball. It was. I saw every pitch. It was just like I had Superman eyesight. And then there were days I went out there and it looked like a BB, and I'm trying to pick it up. And it might be the background. As a Baltimore fan, I had the plate in 1997, the Mariners, and we're at Baltimore, Game 4. Randy Johnson started for the Mariners, and it was like a 3:00 start, and his arm was coming out. There's a silver building, dead center field, downtown Baltimore, and the sun, is October, so the sun's a little lower, and this and that, and his hand was coming out, and he's so tall, it was coming out of this silver bill. You could not see the ball, and and the hitters were going, "What is going on?" It was just tough for everybody. You can't say ball strike. I don't know. It's a silver building. It's really tough to see. No one cares. You have to do your job, right? And so as an umpire, I just need to slow my timing down. I need to focus and really bear down. But the point is, there's a lot of reasons why an umpire may have a bit of an off day. You got to remember too, Eric, an off day means instead of missing 1 or 2 pitches, maybe 3 pitches a game, I missed 6,
right?
7 out of 250 pitches or whatever, so.
And we're focused on the plate, but it's more than that. It's first base, second base, third base. It's anything.
Yeah. And, no, you don't have a tongue lashing. Most times when we walk off the field, the guy that had a tough day is the first guy that says something.
Okay.
He says, "Man, I could not pick up the ball, or, my timing, or, whatever it was, or a play on the bases." One of the first things I do when I walk in, and this, especially before replay, is, I'll ask, "Did I miss that steal play at second? What did you see on that steal play? Because I'm not real confident on it, or whatever." And then of course you want to see it because if you did miss it, you want to go through your checklist of why did you miss it? Was your position? Was your timing? Was your, you have a whole.
So do you have to fill out a report and submit it every night or something?
No. The only time we have to do a report is if there's an ejection, if there's a equipment violation, if there's anything that happened during like a fan ran on the field, or they threw a bunch of stuff on the field or whatever. No, but trust me, if you missed a play or missed a pitch, you're going to hear about it because it's in your evaluation for that game, and that kind of thing. And what I try to do is, if I do miss something, miss a play on the base or whatever, I try to figure out why I missed it.
Right, get better.
Yeah, just take a negative into a positive if you can, so maybe you don't make that mistake going forward.
So,
but yes, you can have tough days, but usually they're self-identified and then try to correct them.
So let me ask you this: do you ever get, as an umpire, any of your fellow umpires, do you guys ever get frustrated that you're not, I don't know if it's contractual or not, but you're really, from what I see, you're not allowed to do pre and post game conferences like the players and the managers. You don't talk to the media. That's the whole point. You don't get, I guess you don't get to defend yourself. You don't get to say, hey, here's why I made that call. Here's why I made that play. I mean, I watch the Orioles post game every day, and the manager's on there saying and defending himself, why he did this, why he didn't do that. He's bombarded with reporters. I know that's not how umpires work, but do you ever get frustrated that you can't, or is it a good thing that you can't?
Well, usually if there's a controversial call or if there's something big in the game, you'll have a pool reporter come to your locker room.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They may not print it, or, I mean, but they may ask you about it. And it may be a rule. It may be a play at the plate that ended the game that was controversial or whatever, a balk, why was that a balk? What did you see or whatever? And you'll just explain, what you had or what what the rule is or was, and, how you came to the conclusion that you came to. Again, we have no power of if they report it or not, or if it, how, in what context they put that in their story.
But you're not required to talk to them like players and managers are.
No, we're not required to talk to them. It's a courtesy. We can always say no comment. We have no comment. Usually, and I always try to talk to the press, because if you have no comment, it just keeps the issue alive. Yeah, it keeps the issue alive, and they're going to want it. They're still going to, you're better off saying what you have. People may absolutely disagree with everything you just said, but this is where we're coming from. This is why we did this, and then move on.
I hear you. I've always wondered about that, and I'm learning. I've never read an article.
It's not a requirement. I think they have to. I think managers have after every game.
They have to. Yeah.
We don't have that stipulation. It's if we're asked, if someone comes to our room, we have the option of talking to them or not talking to them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. You're teaching me. I did not know that. That's good to know. So umpiring in general, officiating, any sport is as my dad always says, is a thankless business, right? Yeah. You get yelled at when you miss a call, but you very rarely have that same manager who hated you the inning before thank you for messing up the call that this time went in his favor. You don't hear that stuff, right?
Right.
And you're right. We're all human. It's a bunch of judgment calls and so forth. But let's get into something different. I mean, I have a family, a mixed family, both sides, my wife and my side. And we have a lot of, not a lot, but we have some openly gay folks in our family, and they're just human beings. They're just family members to us. But speaking about fans and thankless business, I mean, you're the first, for those that don't know, Dale's the first major league umpire to ever come out as openly gay many years ago. But more than that, I believe you were the first person in officiating between MLB and NFL and NHL and certainly any other sport to do so. And one thing that I know for sure is that people are mean. People are brutal. So I guess this is not just about you coming out. This is in general. When you're back behind the plate, you hear fans. You got to be able to hear them, particularly if you're at the Orioles game and there's 6 fans in the stands. Sorry, O's. You can hear them yelling. And when they're yelling, it reminds me of what Adam Jones said in the media years ago when he was in Boston. And he said Boston fans were the worst because they would yell the N-word left and right. And it was offensive, right? You had to have had that. And how does that affect you as a human being? Forget being an umpire.
Well, you are correct. I was the first active male official in the top 5 sports to come out as gay. That was in December of 2014. So the 2015 season, a few months later, was the first time I walked on the field after revealing that. Now, you got to remember or understand that all the umpires I worked with, they all knew. They had known for years. The
right.
Major League Baseball offices, the people that signed my check, they knew. So this was not a shock to any of them. But it was, teams and players and managers and the media and fans.
Sure.
This was news. I really wasn't sure what the reaction, if any, would be, not only from players and that, but also, the shots coming from the stands, what kind of crap would be coming out of there. And I, going into that 2015 season was, it was a little different. Just wondering how this would all play out. I can tell you,
it's got to be the most nerve-wracking season of your whole career.
Well, Eric, it's really funny. My first game, a spring training game, early March 2015, it was in Arizona. It was the Indians and the Reds, and our locker room was like in center field. So we walked all the way, from the outfield all the way to home plate to do round rules and start the game. And I remember, and this is again, 4 months since I had come out, but the first game. And so I remember walking onto the field, and it wasn't a packed house for spring training. It was the first, like I said, first spring training game, but I had a feeling that I didn't anticipate. I felt, for the first time, I felt totally free. It was like I was not hiding behind the shield anymore. Anybody in the stands when they saw my number 5 could say, "Oh, who's that umpire? Oh, he's gay." Anybody could, if they didn't remember the story, they certainly could find out very easily. And so it was a very liberating feeling for me, which is something I didn't really anticipate. I just felt, I'm finally, after all these years, I'm walking on the field as who I really am without any shields up in front of me. That season, actually that game, I had 2 players come up to me. One was Marlon Byrd, a longtime outfielder for several organizations. He was playing for the Reds. About the second, third inning, we rotate on the bases every couple of innings in spring training. I was over at third, and he's going to the third base dugout from left field, and he sees me and he goes, "Dale," and he comes up, and like I said, I've umpired him for years, and he comes up and gives me a huge bear hug, and he says, "I am so proud of you. You're free, man. You're free." And I did not expect this. Okay. I did not even, it's not unusual at all, especially in spring training when you haven't seen players for several months. "Hey, Dale, how was your off season? How's everything?" Right. Whatever. But he gives me this big bear hug, which is a little, isn't normal. But he said that. And I said, "Thank you, Marlon. Thank you. I really appreciate that." And it really touched me that, that he was so enthusiastic and so happy for me. Later that game, Joey Votto, as he was done for the day about the 5th inning, he comes by and he shook my hand and goes, "I just want to congratulate you. That took a lot of guts." And, that was 2 players. The rest of that season, there was only one other player, one base coach, and one trainer that said anything the entire year. No manager, no other players.
So wait, the first game, 2 people that I've heard of. I know Joey Votto, of course, certainly Marlon. And then you went 162 games plus postseason, plus spring training, and only 2 more?
Only one other player, coach in spring training, and one trainer. That was it. And when I was doing interviews when I came out in December, I was asked that, "What do you think the reaction will be, players and managers and coaches?" And I said, frankly, I don't know, but frankly, I think they're more interested in me getting pitches and plays right than what I do when I leave the ballpark. And basically that's what it was. Now, to continue with that conversation, you're talking about fans, and this to me is incredible. I never heard one negative thing that entire season or the next season.
That's great.
Now, I'm not saying somebody might have said something. I never heard it. If somebody did, I did. There was one funny, somebody in Atlanta, and in the article, when I was coming out, it talked about me being a huge Oregon Ducks, fan.
Right.
I grew up in Eugene and everything. And somebody said, "I am shocked and appalled that Dale Scott came out as an Oregon Duck fan." And I'm waiting for the second shot here because I'm curious. He goes, "But it makes a lot of sense with all the uniform changes." And so I thought that was hilarious. I mean, that is kudos for originality there. But to be honest with you, I never heard anything negative from fans. I had just the very, very few players, coaches, managers even mention it, and it was all good. It was all positive. And that was it. And going into that season, I didn't know. I had no idea what the reaction would be, if any. I thought it would be a little more than that, quite frankly. But it also proved to me that, I'm there for a reason, and gay, straight, whatever, get plays right. That's what they want. That's what people want. And that's my job. And one of the things I said when I came out, I said I am so happy that Major League Baseball has evaluated me on my work on the field and not what I do off it, because that's exactly the way it should be.
Well, I mean, I think that as a society, regardless of the topic, we have a long way to go, right? But I also think we've come a long way. And you didn't make this public in 1985. You didn't make this public when you were in the minors and you were just starting to umpire. It's a different time. Again, I'm not saying we're all there. I don't know that we ever will be. But at that same point, I'm just thrilled to hear that it was more about the game. Candidly, you were an inspiration for you are an inspiration for folks to just be themselves, regardless of their job or their occupation or whatever. And it's certainly not easy to do what you did. I can't even imagine. I love hearing that story.
Well, and to prove what you're just saying as an inspiration, I did get hundreds of emails from people around the world. The vast majority I've never met. How'd
they find your email? I had to rely on Twitter.
In the story and in Outsports, the coming out story, I had a not my usual email address, gotcha. but email address so people could contact. And there was a couple stupid, things. But again, the vast majority of this was all positive. But I got an email from a senior in high school in the LA area who umpired, who his goal was to be a major league umpire. He was also gay and he wasn't out. And he wrote me and he said, now I know that if I don't make it to the big leagues, it's because I don't have the skill. It's not because of who I am. That's
great.
Huge.
That's huge.
That's huge. And so that really moved me. And that right there. And I don't know how many people that didn't contact me that maybe it was an inspiration for. So that right there, made it all, not that I was second guessing coming out, but that just proved that it was the right thing to do.
Well, you don't know, my full-time job is not being a podcast host. This is something I started last year. I've always wanted to do, and I'm enjoying it and having fun meeting great people. My full-time job is I'm in the insurance and employee benefits world. And the reason I say that is I was very excited when I saw how, as you said, MLB knew for a long time prior. And I love how MLB took the stance well before the Supreme Court upheld same-sex marriage, and they went ahead and gave I don't know if you were married at the time, but gave your partner an MLB ID and union benefits and health insurance benefits. That just makes me love the sport even more. No matter what folks want to say about Bud Selig in the day or Rob Manfred now, it's irrelevant. I just love that because, to be very honest, I work with employer organizations. I don't work with MLB, but somebody does. There's a benefit expert like me that does the benefits for Major League Baseball. It's just a fact, right?
Right.
And not every organization, whether they're a name brand like MLB or whether they're the Joe's Plumbing down the street on the corner, not every organization still to this day, I see it, they don't want to accept what MLB did, and they didn't have to. So I was really proud to read that.
Yeah, well, we Mike and I were registered domestic partners. This was before marriage was legal. But by doing that, and with the new insurance benefits that we had through MLB, I could, if male or female, if you have a registered domestic partner, you got the same benefits as the employee, just like a spouse, basically.
Yeah,
I love it. So we did that for a few years until we were legally married, and of course, then he was an official spouse. But yeah, baseball was really very good about everything.
That's fantastic. Hey, let me ask you another couple questions, and we'll wrap up. I know you're busy. I appreciate you. Why aren't there more Hall of Fame umpires in the Hall of Fame? There's 10. And 9 of them were from what I count, there's 10, and 9 of them were the Veterans Committee. Like, umpiring is such a huge impact on the game, good, bad, or indifferent. And there's so many big name, famous, I use the term famous umpires that I believe could or should be in the Hall of Fame one day. What do you think's going on there?
Well, I agree. There's umpires that not only famous, but they dedicated their life to the game of baseball, and they did an outstanding job for season after season for thousands of games.
You're one of them. You're 28th all time in games.
Which blows my mind, But and if I hadn't got hurt in 2017 early in that season,
you weren't planning to retire that year. That was not entering
it was concussions.
your mind.
Yeah, concussions, knocked me out of the game. But if I had stayed healthy that same season in 2017 in September, I would have hit the 4,000 game mark, and that's a huge number. For an umpire, and it's one that less and less guys will ever meet, because there's more time off the field now with replay and those
is that 4,000 number similar to what fans hear, like when a player gets to 3,000 games or they get to 500 home runs, they're a deadlock for Hall of Fame? Is that a similar type number, or it's just kind of a big number?
It's a big number. I don't know how many. There's only 3 umpires that have had over 5,000 games.
Right. One of them, the number one guy just this year.
Joe West. Yeah. He took, and Jerry Davis is real close to 5,000. But, and then I don't know how many have 4,000 or more, but there's not a ton. Sure. I don't know if that's a deadlock for Hall of Fame, but I do know that was a personal number that I was hoping to get. And I was 103 games short because of the concussions. But the reason, the only way an umpire gets into the Hall of Fame is through the Veterans Committee, or it's through a committee that only consider umpires once every 3 years or something like that. Okay. It's like, and then they're also in the same category as executives and all these other categories. So it's not just that they're going to every 3 years put an umpire in. It's that like every 3 years one might be considered in this pool of a bunch of other people that might be considered. So, and quite frankly, that's just not high on those committees' lists. And I don't think that's necessarily right. There's some contemporaries that I worked with that deserve, in my opinion, Hall of Fame consideration. Richie Garcia, who I know Baltimore is not real happy with, but from '96, but had an unbelievably great career. I think he worked 4 or 5 World Series. I mean, the guy was a solid umpire. Larry Barnett's another one. Obviously Joe West, I think will make the Hall of Fame. Don Denkinger is another. These are guys that I worked with, when I first came up. And of course, in the National League, you've got, Harry Wendelstedt, and you've got Doug Harvey did get voted in. So, I mean, I think there should be more, to answer your question. Yes, I think they're a little bit slow and a little bit too selective, I guess, or something that, it just seems a little unfair. And I wish I would hope that maybe that could be changed here going forward.
Well, Dale, you got my vote.
Well, there you go. We'll get you on the committee.
I wish. So I imagine, obviously, you still have close friends that are either not umpiring anymore or certainly still umpiring. Sure. But the question is, what about players? Did you ever develop a relationship with a player where you just became good friends? I mean, a lot of them you were probably in the minors with. You made it to the majors at the same time, and frankly, you had a career with them.
Yeah, it's
a different dynamic, though.
Yeah, it is a different dynamic. People always asked throughout my career, do you ever, after a game, do you ever go out and have a drink with a player or something? I go, well, it's just a little awkward. It's like the judge taking out the defendant, conflict of interest. Right before I call him out on strikes and the base is loaded the next day. It's a little awkward. Harold Reynolds. We text every once in a while. We talk every once. If there's a weird rule or something, he'll get a hold of me to help him understand it when he's going on the air or whatever. But part of our bond, so to speak, is we're both Oregon Duck fans. He's from Oregon, and
that makes sense.
I'll see him at a football game or something. So we have that connection. But and now that I've been retired, like on Facebook or on Twitter, there have been a couple guys that will communicate that. Not necessarily great friends, but they're friendly, and we know who each other is, and I respect these players are very talented, athletes, and I saw them in person, for years. And so I respect what they have done. We may have had our differences, and I may have rejected them. We may have had arguments, but I understand. I do respect what they did. And
you leave it on the field, though. You leave it on the field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I got to ask you about this because I find it fascinating. As soon as I sent that video to my dad, the Cameo, going back to the beginning, one of the first things he said to me is he always loved how you were so entertaining to watch, your third strike call, which I know you know that. I mean, heck, in 2012, April 2012, Power Rankings on the Bleacher Report said you were the top 5 most entertaining umpires in baseball to watch, and you're most well known for your strikeout call, where you would step back, turn to your left, punch the air, and emphatically call the batter out. Which anybody watching this, you can Google Dale Scott strike 3 call, and it's gonna pop up on YouTube. And so I agree. Just a quick question. Where'd that come from? Did you do that in the minors? Did you do it just kind of evolved? Because it was fun to watch. I want to watch a fun game.
It evolved. I didn't
like you doing it to the Orioles, but I want to watch a fun game.
No, it evolved. Umpires, as they progress, especially kind of once they get to the big leagues too, if you make it that far, because in the minor leagues, especially lower minor leagues, they want to see a little bit more robotic, because they just want to see your skills and that kind of stuff. And then you develop a personality as you go a little bit with your calls. Some guys more than others. But it was from watching other umpires. There were certain guys, Dave Phillips, I worked with a lot. So I got a little Dave Phillips in there. I got a little, Rocky Rowe in there who I worked with, a little combo here and a little combo there, and it just kind of settled into what I came up with, and I was comfortable with it. It felt good, and so that's what I settled on. And if you look at a game I worked, I started in '86, so full time. You look at a game in 1990, and you look at a game in 2010. Different. My strike three is different. Excuse me. So it developed, but I'm constantly asked about it and comments about it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we got guys love other umpires. Amateur umpires stuff. They always want me to do it. And I get Cameo requests. So call them out on strikes.
Oh, you get that too. That would have been great. That's a good idea. I didn't even think about that.
Well, there's Father's Day coming up. I could do another one.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, man. Well, listen, my last question, you've been out of the game officially for 4 years now. Do you watch the game? Do you enjoy it? Can you turn on the TV and actually watch it? Do you watch the umpires? Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, I don't watch a lot of baseball during the season.
Okay.
I might channel surf, and I'll come up, and the first thing I do is who's working the game. I'm trying to figure out who the umpires are. If I'm at a game, which is a major league game, is rare, just because I live in Portland. It's not close to me, but I always watch the officials. It doesn't matter what. I've got Oregon Duck football season tickets. I watch the officials. Of course, I love the Ducks. I want them to win, and I watch football. But I'm always watching the officials. I officiated football and basketball for 18 years at high school level. I officiating's in my blood, and so I like to see the mechanics. I like to see the teamwork and things that a lot of people just don't pick up on because they're not there to. They've never officiated. They don't.
Right.
It's not their interest. And so now in the playoffs and stuff with baseball, I'll watch. And usually when I'm watching postseason, it's for the sole purpose of praying nothing controversial happens. That's my whole purpose in watching is just hoping nothing controversial happens, because I've been there. It's not fun. And it's when it's under a microscope like that in the postseason or whatever, it's part of the. We signed up for this. It happens, but it's not a lot of fun to see.
For those that don't know, Dale Scott, again, 32 years, Major League Baseball umpire, 3 World Series, 3 All-Star games, 6 League Championship Series, including the Jeff Lemire game. I didn't even think about that. I feel like such an ass. And 12 Division Series games. Just a true legend in the umpire community, in my book, in my dad's book. I appreciate it. And speaking of books, there's not much to talk about, so I left it here to the end. But Dale, you were telling me you have a book you started writing last year that you hope to have out by the season start 2022. Can you shed any light on that?
Yeah, I'm working with writer Rob Nyer, who happens to live here in Portland, but Rob's a 20-plus year baseball writer for ESPN, Fox, and he's written a few books. And he kind of convinced me to do this, frankly, only because I had no intention of writing a book. But he said, and other umpires have retired and written books, and yeah, they're fun and that kind of stuff. But I just really wasn't looking to do that. But he said, you've got a unique story. I mean, you've got not only your baseball, which you have great stories and insights, and people love that if they're baseball fans and that kind of stuff. But you also have this whole other story that no one else has, and that's me coming out as an active umpire and how I hid my sexuality and went out of my way to hide my sexuality in the minor leagues, my first 15 or so years in the big leagues. So he convinced me to do it. We started in October last year after we got a publishing deal. We sent the manuscript in a couple of weeks ago. It's happening. It's been an education. I'm not a writer. I've improved. I've gotten better. I've learned a lot of things. But it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully when it comes out next April or May, we still don't even have a title yet. So I'd tell you a title, but we don't have it yet. But when it comes out next spring, hopefully it'll interest enough people to buy a few copies, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun stories, both minor leagues, big leagues, and when I worked winter ball in the Dominican, and so hopefully it'll be a New York Times top seller or
absolutely, of course it will. And with all seriousness, Dale, we've had on a lot of folks of late and over the year that are releasing books in the current and so forth. So I'd love to have you back when it's time to release. I'll hold up a copy and plug it and tell people to go buy it. I want to read it myself. So if you're interested, let me know. Add me to that press tour, for lack of a better term, because I know your publisher is going to want you out there talking to people.
Right.
So it's been a pleasure, my friend. I appreciate you very much. Thank you again. If anybody wants to reach Dale, I found him on Cameo and Twitter. Is there another or a better way to reach you, or you on any other social media? Is there a website?
I'm on Facebook, just my name. And that's, those are the ways to get a hold of me. But I appreciate the invite, and please tell your father hello, and I'm glad he's doing well and back on the field. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm really happy for him.
Absolutely. Well, guys, everybody knows I only show up and ask some questions, and I have a lot of fun, good, bad, or indifferent. So for everybody behind the scenes at the RockstarsRocking podcast who puts this together on the back end, I appreciate them very much. I'm Eric Silverman. That is Dale Scott, MLB, retired MLB umpire of 32 years. And you've just watched another episode or listened to another episode of the RockstarsRocking podcast. Until next week, thanks everybody, and make it a great day.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the RockstarsRocking podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. 5 stars would totally rock. Until next time, rock stars, keep rocking.